The city lights glowed through the glass tower, cold and quiet. Adam carried his heavy toolbox into the elevator, thinking only of his daughter sleeping at home. Then, the private doors slid open on the 40th floor. Kendra, the untouchable CEO of the entire empire, stepped inside in silence. Suddenly, the steel cables snapped with a deafening screech. The elevator plunged into total darkness. In the black silence, the powerful woman collapsed to the floor, gasping for air in pure terror. Adam reached out, pulling her shaking hands against his chest, holding a secret that could destroy her life. The dim red emergency light flickered to life, casting long, bloody shadows across the cold steel walls. The world outside was dead and silent, 40 floors above the pavement. Kendra was pressed against the corner of the elevator floor, clutching her knees tightly to her chest. Her tailored suit was wrinkled, and her polished hair fell loose around her pale face. She was gasping for air, her chest heaving with sharp, painful breaths. The armor of the untouchable corporate queen was completely gone. Adam did not hesitate. He set his heavy metal toolbox aside and dropped down to his knees in front of her. In that small, broken box, he forgot the golden letters on her penthouse office door. He forgot the massive salary gap and the hundreds of security cameras in the building. He only saw a human being drowning in invisible terror. "Look at me," Adam whispered softly. His voice was deep, steady, and warm. It was the exact gentle tone he used late at night when his little girl woke up trembling from thunder. He reached out and gently covered her icy, shaking hands with his own calloused palms. "Focus on my voice, Kendra. You are safe. The emergency brakes caught us. We are not falling." He took her trembling fingers and pressed them flat against the center of his chest, right over his heart. "Feel that," he said, his eyes never leaving hers. "Just match my heartbeat. Slow it down. Breathe in with me, and let it out." If you have ever felt completely alone while carrying the weight of the entire world on your shoulders, you know the quiet desperation Kendra felt in that dark cage. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you believe that real healing always starts in the most unexpected places. Slowly, the frantic gasps in Kendra's throat began to soften. She felt the steady, calm rhythm of his heart beating under his blue cotton maintenance shirt. It was the only solid thing in her spinning world. For the first time in years, she did not pull away from another person. She did not raise her defenses. Instead, she leaned closer into his warmth, letting her forehead rest against the rough fabric of his shoulder. "I can't breathe up there," Kendra confessed, her voice barely a whisper in the quiet elevator shaft. "Every single day, thousands of employees look at me. The board members sit across the table, waiting for me to make one mistake so they can take my company away. My family expects perfection. If I show even 1 second of fear, they will tear me apart. I am so tired of being strong." Adam listened with his whole heart. He did not judge her wealth. He did not mock her pain. He knew the heavy, crushing weight of carrying a burden in complete silence. "I understand that fear more than you know," Adam replied gently, looking at the dim red light above them. "Every night, I walk through the door of a tiny apartment to my daughter, Penny. She is only 6. Her mother passed away 3 years ago, and some days, I don't know how I will afford her school supplies or keep the lights on. I smile every single morning so she never sees how terrified I really am. It is exhausting to wear a mask." Kendra lifted her tear-stained face and looked into his eyes. In the faint red glow, she saw the tired lines around his eyes and the deep, honest kindness in his expression. All the money in her bank accounts had never bought her a single moment of real peace like this. For hours, as the city slept below them, the distance between the 41st floor and the maintenance basement completely vanished. There was no wealthy CEO. There was no underpaid worker. There were only 2 lonely souls sitting side by side on a cold floor, sharing the painful truths they had hidden from the rest of the world. Dawn crept through the glass panels of the skyscraper. With a loud mechanical groan, the elevator doors were suddenly pried open. Bright white fluorescent lights flooded the small space, blinding them instantly. Security guards and emergency technicians rushed forward, calling out Kendra's name in frantic, worried voices. In an instant, the real world rushed back in. Kendra stood up quickly, smoothing down her designer jacket. The deep vulnerability from the dark vanished behind an icy, distant mask. Adam gathered his tools quietly, stepping back into the shadows of the crowd. He was invisible again. For a brief second, Their eyes met over the heads of the whispering staff. A silent shockwave passed between them. They were back in their separate worlds, but the memory of the night still burned hot in their chests. Throughout the morning, Kendra sat in her high-rise corner office, surrounded by financial reports and glass walls. Yet, she could not focus on a single number. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard Adam's deep, soothing voice. She remembered the warmth of his chest and the honest sorrow in his eyes. Down on the ground floor, Adam fixed the lobby lights with tired hands. His mind was miles away, floating somewhere 40 stories above the clouds. He wondered if the trembling woman he had held in the dark was gone forever, replaced by the ruthless boss everyone feared. Have you ever shared a deep, unforgettable connection with someone, only to have the world force you to act like strangers the very next day? Drop a comment down below with your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel to see what happens next. By noon, the Grand Marble lobby was buzzing with wealthy executives and investors. Adam was on his knees near the main reception desk, carefully repairing an electrical floor panel. Suddenly, a loud, cruel voice cut through the room. It was Bradley, one of the wealthiest senior board members in the company. Bradley intentionally kicked Adam's open toolbox, sending metal wrenches and heavy screws scattering loudly across the polished marble floor. "Watch where you put your garbage, boy," Bradley sneered, making sure the entire lobby could hear him. "Some of us have real jobs that actually matter. Clean this mess up immediately, or I will have you thrown out on the street." Adam's jaw tightened. Anger burned behind his ribs, but he thought of little Penny waiting for him at home. He had bills to pay and medicine to buy. He could not afford to fight back. Swallowing his pride, Adam kept his head down and began gathering his tools from the floor. "Do not touch another screw." A sharp, commanding voice cut through the air. The entire lobby went dead silent. Kendra marched through the grand entrance, her heels clicking rhythmically against the stone floor. Her eyes were blazing with pure fury. She ignored her security team and stepped directly between Bradley and Adam. "You will apologize to him right now, Bradley," Kendra demanded, her voice dropping to a dangerous, low tone. Bradley laughed nervously, his face turning bright red under the stares of the crowd. "Kendra, be serious. He is just a maintenance worker. Why do you care? He keeps this entire building standing while you sit upstairs doing nothing," Kendra snapped, her gaze cold as ice. "He has more dignity in his little finger than you have in your entire body. If you ever disrespect him again, I will personally strip your shares and remove you from this board." The entire room froze in utter disbelief. Whispers instantly spread like wildfire among the watching employees. The cold CEO had never defended anyone in her entire career. And as Kendra looked down at Adam, the fury in her eyes softened into something deep, protective, and dangerously real. The aftermath of the lobby incident exploded into an all-out war behind closed doors. In the private boardroom, the air was thick with hostility. Bradley and his circle of wealthy investors leaned across the mahogany table, their eyes sharp and unforgiving. They used Kendra's sudden defense of a blue-collar worker as ammunition. They claimed she was losing her emotional control, calling her erratic and unhinged. The board gave her an impossible ultimatum. The annual investor gala was only weeks away. If Kendra could not prove she was grounded, stable, and committed to long-term family values, they would hold a vote of no confidence and strip her of the CEO title her late father had built. Up on the top floor, Kendra stood by the massive floor-to-ceiling windows. The city lights stretched out below her like scattered diamonds, but to her, it felt like a prison. Her heart raced with the same terrifying panic she had felt in the dark elevator. But this time, she knew exactly who could save her. She picked up the internal phone and made a single, quiet request. 10 minutes later, the private elevator doors opened. Adam stepped into the lavish penthouse office. He was still wearing his navy blue maintenance uniform, his work boots leaving faint marks on the pristine white carpet. He felt completely out of place beneath the crystal chandeliers, but his eyes were steady and calm. "You asked to see me, Ms. Ward?" Adam said softly. Kendra turned around. The harsh corporate armor she wore all day seemed to melt the moment their eyes met. She saw the exhaustion in his shoulders, the ink stains on his hands, and the gentle warmth that had kept her from falling apart in the dark. "Please, sit down, Adam," she said, her voice shaking slightly. She walked over to her desk and opened a thick leather folder. She slid a legal document across the dark wood toward him. Beside the papers rested a small, velvet jewelry box containing a simple, elegant platinum engagement band. Adam looked down at the documents, his brow furrowing in confusion. What is this? It is a business proposal, Kendra whispered, her hands clasped tightly together on the desk. My board is trying to take my father's company away from me. They think I am cold and unfit to lead. To secure the shareholders' trust at the annual gala, I need to show them a real, grounded life. I need them to believe I am settling down with a good, honest man. She took a deep breath, her heart hammering against her ribs. I want you to be my fiancé for the next 30 days. Adam froze. The silence in the high-rise office became deafening. He looked from the velvet box to the woman sitting before him, searching her face for any sign of a cruel joke. If you would do anything to protect your child from hardship, even if it meant risking your own heart in a dangerous game, leave a like on this video. Do not forget to subscribe to follow this unforgettable journey. Why me? Adam asked, his voice low and strained. There are hundreds of wealthy men in this city who would gladly stand by your side. Because you are the only person in this entire building who never wanted anything from me, Kendra said honestly, her eyes shining with unshed tears. You held me when I was completely broken, and you didn't ask for a reward. I don't trust any of those wealthy men, but I trust you. She pushed the contract closer to his hands. In exchange, this contract pays off every single cent of your family's medical debt. It buys a house in the safest neighborhood in the city, and it places $1 million into a guaranteed college fund for your daughter, Penny. You will never have to worry about her future again. Adam looked down at the paper. His hands began to tremble. It was everything he had ever prayed for, wrapped in an unimaginable lie. There is one more condition, Kendra added softly, watching him closely. To convince the press and the board, you and Penny must move into my penthouse tonight. We have to live as a real family. Adam stared at the platinum ring on the table, realizing his quiet life was about to disappear forever into a high-stakes world of deception. The heavy iron door of the luxury penthouse clicked shut behind them. For the first time in his life, Adam stood in a home with marble pillars, endless glass walls, and crystal lights. Little Penny held her father's hand tightly, clutching her worn teddy bear to her chest. Her big, bright eyes wandered over the vast, quiet rooms. Instead of staying behind her desk, Kendra walked over and knelt down on the carpet. She looked directly into the little girl's eyes with a gentle smile. She did not act like an untouchable executive. She offered Penny warm cocoa and spent an hour sitting on the living room floor, helping her color inside the lines of a storybook. From the kitchen doorway, Adam watched them in silence. His chest tightened with a deep, unexpected ache. For 3 long, exhausting years, he had been both father and mother to Penny. He had carried the weight of every tear and every scraped knee completely alone. Seeing Kendra laugh so softly with his daughter made the cold penthouse feel like an actual home. Over the next 2 weeks, the line between business and reality began to fade. Adam traded his blue maintenance jumpsuits for custom dark suits, but his humble nature never changed. In the mornings, Kendra left her endless spreadsheets behind to help Penny tie her shoes. In the evenings, Adam made simple family dinners, filling the silent, empty penthouse with laughter, steam, and the smell of fresh food. Every touch between Adam and Kendra, once meant only for the cameras, began to feel electric and terrifyingly real. When Kendra stood on her tiptoes to straighten his silk tie before a media event, their faces were only inches apart. Adam could feel the warmth of her breath, and Kendra's hands lingered on his chest just a few seconds longer than necessary. If you know how painful and beautiful it is to fall in love with someone you are supposed to keep at a distance, make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel and leave a comment to share your own stories of unexpected connections. At high society charity galas, they played their roles to perfection. The cameras flashed endlessly as they walked across red carpets. The city whispered about the mysterious, handsome man who had finally melted the icy heart of the corporate queen. During a slow waltz beneath the golden chandeliers of a private ballroom, Adam placed his strong hand against Kendra's lower back. He pulled her close against his chest. Kendra rested her cheek against the lapel of his black jacket, closing her eyes in complete surrender. You don't have to act right now, Adam whispered softly into her hair. There are no cameras watching us on this side of the floor. Kendra lifted her head, her gaze locking onto his with an intense, raw honesty. I stopped acting days ago, Adam. Adam's heart skipped a beat. For a fleeting second, the entire noisy room vanished. There were no financial contracts, no board meetings, and no corporate lies. There was only the undeniable truth burning in their eyes. But across the crowded room, cold eyes were watching every single move. Bradley stood in the dark corner by the bar, swirling his amber drink with a vicious smile. He had noticed the sudden timing of their engagement. He had seen the way Adam held his fork and the subtle discomfort in his posture among the elite. Bradley pulled a sleek black phone from his pocket and pressed it to his ear. "I want every single record on this maintenance worker," Bradley whispered coldly into the receiver. "Check his bank accounts, his background, and every contract Kendra has signed in the last month. I am going to destroy them both in front of the entire world." The Grand Imperial Ballroom was filled with hundreds of reporters, wealthy investors, and flashing cameras. Massive crystal chandeliers hung from the high ceiling, casting a brilliant golden glow over the crowded room. Tonight was the ultimate test. It was the night that would either save Kendra's corporate legacy or destroy it forever. In the private lounge behind the stage, Kendra stood in front of a mirror, adjusting her elegant emerald gown. Her hands were shaking, but not from stage fright. She turned around to look at Adam. He wore a crisp black tuxedo, looking handsome, noble, and deeply dignified. "Are you ready for this?" Adam asked gently, stepping closer to her. Kendra looked up into his warm brown eyes. In that quiet room, the noise of the crowd outside faded away completely. She did not see a maintenance worker or a business partner. She saw the only man who had ever truly seen her soul. "I don't care about the board anymore, Adam," Kendra whispered, her heart aching with pure emotion. "After tonight, I don't want this to be fake. I want us to be real." Adam felt his breath catch in his throat. The hope he had tried so desperately to bury surged through his veins. Before he could speak the words burning on his tongue, the stage manager knocked on the door. It was time. Hand in hand, they walked out onto the grand stage under a storm of applause. Kendra stepped up to the podium, her voice steady and confident as she presented the company's future vision of integrity, stability, and family. The board members in the front row smiled and nodded in approval. Victory was within her grasp. Then, without warning, the microphone screeched. The massive presentation screens behind them flickered wildly. The corporate slides disappeared, replaced by high-resolution scans of the confidential legal contract. Bold black letters filled the 20-foot screens for the entire room to see. Engagement agreement. $1 million and debt clearance in exchange for 30 days of public romance. A collective gasp rippled through the massive ballroom. The silence that followed was suffocating. Bradley stepped onto the edge of the stage, a microphone in his hand and a cruel, triumphant smirk on his lips. "Is this the family values you are selling us, Kendra?" Bradley shouted, his voice echoing through the speakers. "You didn't find love. You bought a broke maintenance worker from our own basement to trick your investors and save your shares. Have you ever felt the crushing weight of having your deepest dignity stripped away in front of people who only wanted to see you fall? If your heart aches for Adam and Kendra in this dark moment, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel right now." Hundreds of cameras instantly swung toward Adam and Kendra. The flashbulbs went off like lightning, blinding and relentless. Whispers, mocking laughter, and harsh accusations erupted across the floor. Reporters pushed forward, shouting humiliating questions, treating Adam like a dishonest criminal who had sold his pride for cash. Adam stood completely still under the harsh spotlight. The words felt like physical blows against his chest. He looked at Kendra, waiting for her to speak. He waited for her to step forward, to take his hand, to tell the room the truth. But Kendra was paralyzed. The overwhelming noise, the aggressive flashing lights, and the sudden horror of public exposure triggered the same terrifying panic from the elevator. Her throat closed up. Her eyes went wide and glassy. She froze in absolute terror, unable to say a single word. Adam watched the silent woman beside him. To his broken heart, her silence spoke louder than any scream. He believed she was ashamed of him. He believed that, in the end, he was still just the hired help to be discarded when the game fell apart. With shaking fingers, Adam slowly pulled the platinum band from his finger. He set the ring quietly on top of the wooden podium. Without uttering a single word, Adam turned his back on the cameras, the wealth, and the frozen woman he loved. He walked off the stage and pushed open the heavy exit doors, disappearing into the cold, pouring rain outside. Completely brokenhearted, the cold, expensive penthouse had never felt so vast and lifeless. Kendra sat on the edge of the large sofa in complete silence. The shiny marble floors reflected only empty shadows. On the glass coffee table lay Penny's storybook, still open to a half-colored drawing of a small family house with a yellow sun. Kendra ran her shaking fingers over the colorful crayon marks. For years, she had believed that power, wealth, and corporate control were the only things that could protect her from pain. But looking around the grand, silent room, she finally saw the truth. Her billion-dollar empire was completely hollow without the two people who had brought warmth, laughter, and light into her broken world. Her phone rang continuously with furious messages from the board members, demanding her resignation. Bradley sent a message celebrating his victory. Kendra looked at the glowing screen, but she felt no fear. For the first time in her life, the fear was entirely gone. At noon the next day, Kendra called an emergency live press conference. Hundreds of news reporters and television cameras packed the corporate media hall. Bradley stood in the front row, crossing his arms with an arrogant smile, waiting to watch her beg for her career. Kendra walked to the podium. She did not wear her tailored corporate jacket or expensive jewelry. She wore a simple dark sweater, her face completely bare and unmasked. "I am not here to defend my corporate position." Kendra spoke into the microphones, her voice ringing clear and steady across the room. "The financial contract revealed last night was real. I wrote it because I was a terrified coward who cared more about power than honest human connection." The reporters began to murmur, but Kendra did not stop. "When I was suffocating in the dark, stripped of all my titles, an honorable man named Adam did not ask for my money. He offered me his gentle strength and held my shaking hands. He is a better person than anyone sitting on this board. He did not use me. I used him to protect a title that never truly mattered." She looked directly into the main television camera, speaking to only one person in the world. "I hereby resign as Chief Executive Officer, effective immediately, and I want the entire world to know that I love Adam with all my heart. If you believe that true love is worth giving up every ounce of pride, wealth, and status, please leave a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel and leave a comment to celebrate the courage of choosing real happiness over the opinions of the world." A fierce thunderstorm raged across the city as Kendra drove through the pouring rain. She arrived at the small, weathered brick apartment building on the rough side of town. The rain soaked through her clothes and hair as she climbed the narrow stairs to the third floor. She stood outside the chipped wooden door with the faded number 4. Her heart pounded violently against her ribs. She took a deep breath and knocked softly. The door slowly opened. Adam stood in the doorway, wearing his worn blue t-shirt and jeans. Behind him, little Penny peeked out with wide, curious eyes. When Adam saw Kendra standing in the dark hallway, drenched in rainwater with tears streaming down her pale cheeks, all the cold anger in his chest completely dissolved. "I gave it all away, Adam," Kendra whispered, her voice cracking with raw emotion. "I resigned from the company. I don't care about the board, the wealth, or the spotlight. I don't want to be your boss. I don't want a fake contract. I just want to be here with you and Penny, if you will still have me." Adam looked at the woman who had walked away from an empire just to stand on his humble doormat. He reached out with his calloused hands, cupped her wet cheeks, and gently pulled her into his warm chest. "You never had to give anything away," Adam whispered into her hair, holding her tight as the rain fell against the hallway window. "You were already home."